you have a self-image, you have a level of confidence, an ego strength, um, a level of self-worth, that's attributable to things you've watched yourself do or not do, achieve, not achieve, overcome, or whatever throughout your life. And and I think to know yourself, you have to know what those things are.
I think you're 100% right. And I think for children, participating in things that are going to test you is so critical. Giving them this opportunity to realize that there's a line between success and failure, and that you can push through that line. You could become successful at something. Watching kids. That's why I think sports are so important for children. I think that's one of the more insidious things about having these participation trophies for kids, where nobody wins the game. Yay! Everybody plays, but nobody wins. We don't keep score. Well, why the fuck are you playing?
Yeah, I mean, that just goes down as an environmental non-event.
Yeah.
I mean, that contributes nothing to your definition. It's just something to do.
It's also psychologically, it's coddling. It's very damaging for your potential education that you would get from that situation. The bad feeling that you get when someone scores on you is motivation for you to be better at defense.
Yeah. And I think we cheat kids when we do that. And of course, you've got to play everybody. I get that. Not everybody is meant to be an athlete. So, okay, look, go do something else.
Yeah.
Be good at what you're good at.
And if you really want to do it, well, you've got a long road. It's a greased hill.
Yeah.
Start running.
Yeah, everything's not for everybody. So find what you're good at and watch yourself achieve in that lane. That's like I can't carry a tune in a bucket. I can play no instrument. I can't sing. I can play a radio. It's got a big on-off knob. That's it. And so I don't try. I mean, I'm just not good at that. So I go in lanes that I can do stuff and observe myself in that. But I think you cheat kids if you don't let them observe themselves, face adversity, and overcome it.
Absolutely. And it's also an interesting lesson to learn that life isn't fair. I mean, if you're a kid and you're playing basketball with a 15-year-old LeBron James and you're my height, you go, huh,
Yeah.
this ain't going to work out at all.
Yeah. Looking at a cowboy here.
This is not fucking happening.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to understand that and appreciate that. And then conversely, if you're very physically frail, maybe wrestling's not for you either. Maybe you need to do something about your body before you engage in any sort of a combat sport.
They did an experiment back in, I think it was the 60s. They did something called teaching machines. Have you ever seen that?
No.
It was a short period of time, but they took students into class where they put the steps of learning the information so close together that there was never a failure experience. It would say, like, the War of 1812 happened in 1812. Then the next thing would say, the War of 1812 happened in blank, fill in 1812. I mean, come on, pilot plane to get that. So they put it together, and they would teach the information. And they would teach it to criteria where you mastered the information, you had it 100%. And they said, wow, this is great. Everybody learned it, so everybody made 100. Everybody got the information. They truly did learn it. There's no question about it. They learned the information. And so they did great. And then they took them out of that program, put them back in the regular classroom. And the first time they came to questions they didn't know the answer to, the first time they didn't get 100, they came apart like a cheap suit. They panicked. They didn't know how to handle adversity. They didn't know how to handle it when they didn't have the right answers. They didn't learn how to not be perfect. And so they scrapped the whole program because they said, you can't do this because that's not the way life is.
Right.
And you're not teaching them how the real world works. You might as well teach them to go on red and stop on green and then give them the keys and put them out in life, because that's not the way it works. And those kids were absolutely screwed up when they got into a truly competitive environment. You can't be successful.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's not healthy. It's not good for you. You don't learn from it. I mean, the whole idea about school is you're supposed to be setting kids up for the future. You're supposed to be teaching them not just information, but teaching them how to learn and how to improve.
Yeah, that worries me. I've read that story not long ago when the students, I think it was at UCLA in law school, complained and got a professor either disciplined or fired because he required them to take a counter argument over something controversial like Ferguson. He said, I want you to, I know you that you're all on this point of view. Now I want you to prepare an argument for the other side. And they all said, oh, that's upsetting to us. We can't do it. To the administration and complain.
Well, that's crazy because you may have to, as a lawyer, you may have to represent someone who's done something you don't agree with. If that's what you want to do for a living, right?
I mean, are you kidding me? They were like needed therapy. And I'm like, what the hell has happened here? Oh my God.
That is so crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts.
That's crazy. Yeah. Well, there's a movement going on in this country right now, the social justice movement, and it leans in that direction. That people don't want to look at things for how they are; they want to look at things for how they want them to be.
Yeah, that just I just don't understand. You cannot legislate that everything is going to be equal for everybody because everybody's not equal. I'm sorry, they're not equal. They may be equal in terms of their value as a human being.
Yes.
But they're not equal in math skills. They're not equal in how fast they run. They're not equal in creativity. They're not equal. Everybody has their own value, but that doesn't mean their marketable skills in an open society, in an open market, are going to be the same.
No, it's ridiculous. I had a joke in one of my specials, 2 specials ago, about there was a story about a woman who was guarding the White House. She was the lone guard at one of the doors of the White House, and some crazy man broke in and knocked her to the ground and just ran through the White House. And he was running around inside the White House for like 3 minutes before they finally, some off-duty Secret Service agent tackled this guy. And saw like, what the fuck is going on? This guy's running through the White House, tackled this guy. And the joke was that people think that a woman can do everything a man can do. I go, a woman can do everything a man can do. Is that true? And some woman who was in the crowd at the comedy store was like, yes. I go, well, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Here's why it doesn't make any sense. Because a man can't do everything a man can do. I go, look, I've met Shaquille O'Neal, and his dick is where my face is. And if the White House is experiencing a Shaq attack, I'm the wrong person to save the world because he's just going to run right over me. I go, but if my wife and kid were guarding the White House, guess what? I'm getting in. Okay? I love my family, but if it's between me and kid, there's no way they're going to be able to stop me. I love them to death, but I'm a man and they're women. And if there's a woman guarding the White House, I don't care who she is. I'll fuck her up. It's not going to happen. This is crazy. But someone had this idea that they would put a woman in charge of a very physical job. You should have a giant man with a violent temper, and he should be armed, okay? Because this is the guy that's keeping bad people from the fucking president.
Yeah, I don't understand. It just seems like you got to find your own lane. I mean,
yeah,
you don't want to put me in the NBA.
Well, yeah, physical things in particular. Well, and then there's also mental things. Look, I suck at math. Okay, if everyone has a chance to work at CERN, right? Everyone has a chance to work at the Large Hadron Collider, including people that have no idea about physics. We're gonna have a real time making these equations work.
Yeah. That's what I mean about finding your own lane.
Yeah.
Like you, I can't add 2 and 2 and get 5 every time. I'm just not good at math. But I'm good with words. I can talk, I can read fast, I can comprehend well, but I am not good with math. So I got myself into a lane where I talk for a living. I read, I talk. It's qualitative, not quantitative. I can accept that I'm not suited for that. I mean, I don't feel bad about myself because of that.
Well, once you do something and you're good at it, you can accept not being good at other things. It's
Right.
much easier. If you find a thing that you're good at, whether it's gymnastics or singing or painting, whatever the fuck it is, if you can find a thing that you're good at, it'll give you a feeling of self-worth, and you won't need to be good at everything.
Yeah.
You can accept and you can enjoy other people being good at things as well.
Yeah, I said earlier, my dad was an alcoholic, and I would compare myself to that kid across because I had a damaged personal truth. But I found a currency because at that time in my life, I was a pretty decent athlete for this small school I was going to. So that was my currency.
Yeah.
So now it didn't matter what was happening at home because I got strokes for being able to jump high and run fast at school. So that became my currency. So now when I compared myself to him, okay, maybe my home life wasn't as good as his, but I could run faster and jump higher. So that became my currency. So now, that leveled the playing field for me.
Yeah.
And you always, like you said, find what you're good at a given time and do what you're good at.
Yeah, find something you love, find something you're passionate about that you could also excel at.
And if you can work it out where it's your vocation and your avocation, you love doing it and you get paid for it, then you're just double blessed. You got it, right? Because you enjoy doing this and it works out, and that's good.
Yeah, you catch lucky breaks.
Yeah.
But that's lucky.
Yeah, it is. And if I just think if you're in your life and you don't have something that you're passionate about, I mean, and I don't mean that in a cliche way. If there's not something where you wake up every day and there's nothing in your life that you're excited to do, man, you need to go back to the drawing board. Because if all you're doing is just grinding it out, you get up every day, go to a job you don't like, do tasks you don't care to do, and come home to a home you don't want to come home to, and wait to get up and do it again the next day, you're burning daylight. What the hell existence is that? I don't understand that. Find something. I don't care if it's gardening or music or art or athletics or something. Find something you're excited to do.
Yeah, expose yourself to different things with that very purpose of finding something that you love.
Because there's something out there. Yeah. There's something out there, I guarantee you.
Something,
There's something healthy. It's not illegal. It's not going to be high risk. There's something you can do that's not going to kill you or put you in jail that you can be excited about.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the most important things to do when you're a parent is to try to expose your kid to as many different things as possible to find those things for them.
Yeah, and I got two boys, as you know, and you know one of them really well, and I did that growing up because my dad never took me hunting a single day in his life. He never took me fishing a single day in his life. He never took me camping a single day in his life. He never took me to the lake. He never took me skiing, boating, anything. So I took them to all of those things. I didn't know. I had no clue what I was doing, but I took them turkey hunting, duck hunting, deer hunting, skiing, snow skiing, camping. I did it all, and to see what they liked, let them pick.
Yeah.
And boy, when you don't know what you're doing as a dad, that's a bitch.
Yeah.
I mean, just little things like you go camping and you don't realize that setting your tent up on the side of a hill, even if it's like 8 or 10 degrees, is a bad idea.
Can't sleep.
You've got to get on flat ground. I mean, it looked flat to me, but I spent the night trying not to roll down a damn hill. It didn't look like it was on a slant, but it was. But you figure these things out as you go along. But I was glad I gave them those experiences so they could choose, and they did. And some of it they liked, some of it they didn't.
Well, I don't know both your kids, but I love Jay.
Yeah, Jay loves you. He really enjoys spending time with you guys and traveling with you guys.
Yeah, we've had a bunch of great trips.
Yeah,
he's an awesome guy. He really is. It's so much fun.
Yeah, he knows how to have a good time, and he says the same thing about you. He says you know how to have a good time.
Yeah. Well, listen, man. Tell people how to get a hold of your podcast. Where can they get it?
Well, it's Fill in the Blanks, and that's PHIL in the blanks, and I guess you get it everywhere podcasts are gotten, right?
Yep, iTunes, all that jazz.
iTunes, Apple, Stitcher, all the different places.
There it is, right there. Look at you handsome bastard.
Yeah, look at that. I mean, how about that?
Clean up nice.
I do clean up pretty good, don't I? See, the good thing about being bald is you look the same all the time, right?
Yes, that's true. Yeah, and you save money on shampoo.
You save money on shampoo, and I've been bald since I was like 12, so.
Really?
My hair fell out really early.
Wow.
We were playing college football. I'd take my helmet off and look like I had an animal in there. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? My teammates will say, what the hell is in your helmet? It's my hair. Shut up. I don't know why, but it just fell out. I guess it got knocked out.
Well, the mustache works too.
Yeah, well,
A lot of guys can't rock a mustache. I'd look a little creepy with one.
yeah, well, I try to keep it where it doesn't look like total porn.
That's tough, though. How do you do that?
You got to embrace your weaknesses. You know,
Yes.
I mean, I remember when I wrote my first book on Oprah, she said, you won't have any trouble finding it. It's got this big old bald head right there on the front of it. So I figured, okay, I'll make it a trademark, right?
Oprah went hard on you.
Yeah, she did from the beginning. I got no complaints.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you.
She treated me pretty right.
Yeah, it worked out great.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
My pleasure.
You got to come do mine.
Absolutely. 100%.
All right.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thanks, man.
Dr. Phil, ladies and gentlemen. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Is it hanging up on me? We're live? We're live. Dr. Phil. We're live. Someone's calling you. What's going on?
Some of those people I was trying to find. Now they're saying, oh, shit. Yeah, let them worry.
Out of all the years you've been doing your show and all the years you've been giving advice, how did this catch me outside girl? How did this happen?
The Joe Rogan Experience.
During my day, Joe Rogan podcast by night, all day.
Hi, Cyrus. How are you?
Good job.
Pleasure to meet you.
You also. I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you here. You have a fantastic voice. Not just a singing voice, but your talking voice. It's very unusual. It's like it makes you step back and like, oh.
I've actually recently I was walking around in Boston. I went to a museum, and this like older man walked up to me. I had no idea who I was. He was just enjoying the art, also at the museum. Started talking to me forever about my voice and then there was a college, some sort of trip to the museum, and then everybody started freaking out, and it was so cool just to have someone stop me about my speaking voice, because that had never happened to me before. I think because I was turned around and I had the mullet, so I could have been, anybody. I could have been anyone.
It's a heavy voice.
It's a heavy voice.
You didn't always have a heavy voice, though. Like when my kids love Hannah Montana, by the way.
Yeah.
So when I watched, your voice was different.
It's definitely changed. I kind of learned a lot about the voice and how our experiences affect our voice. I had a surgery in November on my voice. I had something called Reiki's edema, which when my doctor told me about it, he said, no one shy ever has this. This is for abuse of the voice. This is for people that talk way too fucking much. And usually this happens when you're like in your 60s or 70s.
How do I not have that?
I don't know. Mine, I think, honestly, really, I started touring, at probably 12 or 13. And not only was the adrenaline that you have after a show, it's not really the singing that affects your voice as much. It's afterwards. You're totally on, and then it's really hard to get that sleep. You stay up talking all night, later the talking all night, turn into smoking all night, and now this is kind of where we're at. We got some dirt on her. The voice can be like a face. It collects wrinkles and it tells a story. And you look at yourself and you go, oh, I didn't have this until this trip. I sat out in the sun or I partied too much or whatever. Your voice does the same thing. It collects dirt.
It's very distinctive. Yeah.
Yes, it gives me away. I'm pretty much one of the only chicks in LA with a mullet, so that gives me away also.
Well, you're not in the right neighborhood.
I know I gotta dry out to the desert, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Go out to Joshua Tree.
Yeah, exactly.
Find the chicks that are tripping.
Exactly.
Yeah, with handmade tattoos.
I had a couple of those too.
But there's something very distinctive about a voice you earn.
It's true. It's kind of like when you see somebody and I think especially being like a female in the industry, I think growing up and changing and like kind of that, there is such a kind of stigma with aging. It's a very kind of scary thing as a female in the industry. And I thought about it a lot and thought about my voice. I actually had someone when I was doing an interview a couple months ago said, she sounds like you stayed up all night smoking too many darts. And I said, well, I fucking have. And that's just the truth. And if that was anyone else, it's kind of like you're weathered or your age or you've been through it. And we'll talk about it as we go. But there over the last year, I noticed a really big change in my voice, kind of a heaviness to it. And I experienced some heavy things. And so I feel like it is a reflection. It is kind of a scar in a sense. But also just by having the surgery was kind of a gift also because I was able to understand my instrument. No one ever explained that to me. I sat in a room with the piano and did scales and shit, but no one taught me about how do you have longevity? You are here with athletes all the time, and recovery days are the most important days. I didn't get recovery days. That was not important for someone that was making so much capital for such a big corporation. The off days are days that money's not coming in, and I definitely probably didn't get the training that I needed to say, hey, you know what, I don't want to do this till I'm 15. I want to do this till I'm 80. And that wasn't always considered. Definitely not complaining. It gave me an amazing launch pad for everything I'm doing now, but I hear it.
But it had to be really odd to be working that much and be a young girl.
The balance it trained me to have is something that I don't think you are going to get taught any other way besides jumping in the deep end of the pool and hoping you know how to swim. That's the only way. There was no way I could have prepared for the amount of balance I would have to learn to kind of teeter because, at one point, again, it went from, it was school, then it went from, how much weed can I actually smoke and still play a teenage superstar on the Disney Channel? and then like,
what's the answer to that question?
More than you would fucking think. I remember one time when, and I don't smoke anymore, and I'm sober.
How long have you been sober?
But I've been sober since pretty much the vocal surgery kind of did it for me, because I just learned so much about the effects, which again you're just not taught. It's not really the drinking; it's staying up all night. Once you have your drink, you end up smoking, and I've become the face of a lot of things, kind of against my will, I guess, from my opinions. When you're someone in my position, your opinion becomes your identity, and it also becomes kind of almost like you kind of become this like preacher. You become this, they don't really let you just always have your own opinion. So I've decided to start telling people I live my own lifestyle. Alcohol was never my problem. There was other things that I end up, I like to go up. So I now just avoid really drinking because I like to wake up at 110%. But it's never really been my problem, and I could see myself having a drink of celebration in the future. But I get so fucking hungover now that I'm like, why would I celebrate with like just feeling like volcanoes erupted in my brain, So it's really just a personal preference, but it's definitely not anything that I promote in. I think it's a lifestyle I think everyone should experiment. It's a good time and you learn a lot of things about yourself and the people around you. But now I'm watching, I have younger siblings and they're going through that, and I don't know how my mom did it with me because it's scary.
Yeah, I think if we're going to acknowledge the fact that all these things exist, cocaine exists, pills exist, marijuana exists, we should teach people how to do it right.
Yeah.
Really, you're leaving children. It's the same thing with sex, right?
Yeah.
We leave children to there's the information that they're going to get is from other kids.
Yeah.
And if you're learning about sex from another 14-year-old or you're learning about coke from a 14-year-old, that's not good.
Yeah.
Like we play this game with children where we try to pretend that, they live in a movie.
All right, well, listen to this. It's actually funny you bring this up because I had the idea this week, not that I really have time to do this in the near future, but I would like to at some point in my life. I want to do my own children's book series of realistic children's stories because I don't like the idea that we teach them that this is sunshine world and everyone walks on a rainbow and everyone's equal, and you need to say like that's not, what are you going to do about it? That's not true. What are you going to do about it? And I think there's a way to not terrify children of life, even though I go in and out of periods where I think life is really overwhelmingly terrifying. And that's coming from my position. And my position, I tell myself all the time, if you're not enjoying this life, honey, you got to come into the next one because I better fucking love this life. It's the best one. I couldn't imagine being in a different body and having a different experience.
It's an awesome life if you do it the right way.
It's an awesome life. And I didn't hurt myself beyond repair. in my experiences, I survived, and I don't even mean heart still beating survival. I mean, I have a lot of people that love me around. I didn't kick all the people that had my best interest at heart out. That's where you die. If you kick everyone that says, "Hey, are you okay?" Out. No, of course I'm okay. You don't trust me, get the fuck out. And so now that I have people that I've had in my life, I feel that I have people in my life that I've known for 15, 20 years, and not many people in my position get to say that. My parents are awesome. My dad's loopy as hell, but I love him so much. He has no way of ever hearing this because my dad doesn't have Wi-Fi or anything but a BlackBerry, so I can tell you what I got for his birthday. My dad has 2 BlackBerries, which equal an iPhone, which is not true, but that's what he says. So for his birthday, he said that he wanted to see if he could go 365 days without eating pizza because he had never done it before. So my dad has now gone a year without having pizza, and my dad loves bubble baths. He's gonna kill me for saying this, but his country ass loves bubble baths.
That's hilarious.
And so he loves to smoke his joint, eat his pizza, and get a bubble bath. So he said, that's what I'm gonna do for my birthday. So for his birthday, I've organized a 5-foot pizza to be delivered to his farm so he can have all he can eat. And I'm the pizza delivery person on the box. I had someone draw it where it's me with my tongue out and a mullet delivering the pizza. And I got a bathtub on Craigslist, and I put it, my dad has 500 acres, so I put it in the middle of the farm filled with bubble gum, just like my music video. And so my dad's going to have a bubble gum bathtub and a 5-foot pizza for his birthday.
That's adorable.
That's next week.
I like the fact that he has no Wi-Fi and no internet.
No Wi-Fi, no internet. Every now and
feels
then,
good that way.
he'll drive to my uncle's house to FaceTime us every now and then.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow, he has to make a drive to FaceTime.
It's not far. All of us are just like, my dad's kept us a Pebbles throw away for sure. We all live on property. We all live really close to each other.
So if you did this thing, like if you really decided to do children's books, like realistic children's books, like how would you do that? Would you get a ghost author and sort of come up with the ideas, what you were trying to get across to kids?
Well,
What you wish somebody told you?
I like that you mentioned that no one talks to us about drugs. I know this is going to be controversial to introduce drugs to kids. I think that there's a way, I'd have to think about it. Wayne Coyne, who's a good friend of mine, and I did the Dead Pets record with him. Flaming Lips have been my favorite band since I was in 5th grade, and he's obviously an amazing artist. And he just had his first child, 1.5 years old. He's 60, he just had a baby. They're coming to visit right now. And I would have him do all the illustrations, so it stays in that kind of surrealist world. Because I think that's what would get the kids to want to read this book, is that the illustrations are still surreal. And I like that about children's books. But I do think that we do need to talk about equality, and I do think there needs to be diversity in children's books. And I think also we just need to talk about the fact, I was actually happy to talk to you today because I didn't get to be with you, but it's kind of the same thing. And I was talking to him, and I said, sometimes it scares me that I'm too tough, and I feel like I'm not jaded and I'm not cold, but I feel too tough. And he goes, well, I'm proud of that because life is tough, and it's not to get hard.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by you feel like the fact that you're too tough?
I feel that I worry sometimes that I can get over things easily. I don't fall to the floor and crawl up in a ball the way I used to, and I think that's a part of me growing up. Like when, I recently just went through a very public divorce that fucking sucked. What really sucked about it wasn't the fact that me and someone that I loved realized that we don't love each other the way that we used to anymore. That's okay. I can accept that. I can't accept the villainizing and the just all those stories that, like, it's just amazing to me that the public kind of thinks that there's no gap of time that they didn't see that could possibly be what led to this. Like, it's not one day you were happy on the carpet, the next day you were making out with your friend in Italy. What the fuck? Well, there was a lot of time in between that you didn't see. It didn't go.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah, but you can't rely on someone else's narrative, right?
No.
Especially someone who doesn't know you. You really shouldn't even read what
But
people write about.
well, what's crazy is my dad. Again, my dad's been a real figure in my life, and my dad, when he got his Grammy nomination, he went to the Grammys in a John 3:16 shirt, and he didn't get the Grammy. And the next day, the New York Post, someone put, "Even God can't save Billy Ray Cyrus in his career." And he was sitting next to Johnny Cash. They were going to something. I have a Johnny Cash tattoo that was handwritten to my dad from around that time. He said, "What the hell?" Just like you say to me right now. "You're my Johnny Cash." He said, "What the hell are you doing reading that?"
Yeah.
And my dad said, "I just never really picked up the paper again." But again, my dad didn't buy that paper. It was just kind of in your face.
You should have thought that was fun.
He does now. Now he just says, well, whatever, will get Johnny Cash to come and sit next to me and talk to me. Now he loves it. And it's been really good to have him go before me. You know, it's kind of that buddy system. I think it'd be really scary if I would have been able to see that. But to your point of, I don't click on the shit. You know, it comes into my life by a walk by a magazine stand, which I like to walk on the street, and it says like, Miley's on drugs and pregnant, and then I think one of those things are, but not the other. Fuck you for lying about me.
Yeah, but that's all they have. I mean, when someone's in the public eye and someone's as prominent as you are, you become a way for them to access money.
Right.
That's all you are.
Clickbait advertisement, and I totally get it. It's that unprogramming of. Also, I think what's interesting sitting here with you is that all of this is kind of new. I mean, even just like the idea of podcasts. What I used to do when it was like promo time for a record. Okay, so I'm 12 years old and I'm printing physical copies of my album. So I have to write my fucking music, 6 months before you actually. So I just did Dolly's new album for Christmas, and I had to record a Christmas song in July. It was the weirdest thing I've ever done in my life. But when you make physical copies, that's what you do, and you're telling a story from always being behind, especially when it comes to the media. So now what I love about this, what I love doing, a show like yours is like, talk about it right now, people hear it right now. So you're getting the real information. You're not getting information from, all right, I shot a magazine cover, I did an interview, I was la in love with my boyfriend. I mean, that literally happened when I did Vanity Fair. I flew there like a week after I got married. By the time the damn thing was on the stands, I was divorced. It was old news. It was like, come on, so you're really not able to tell your story in real time. And that's what I love about the new way that music is happening and streaming. And I love the idea that, like, I threw up that Flaming Lips record I did on SoundCloud. And it was like, no one had to buy it, or I sound 105. But it's very exciting because I really hated always being behind myself. And I think that's what now I can use my art as my kind of, I guess, the way that I can talk to the press isn't what bothers me. It's kind of the public, and I got in this habit where when people would meet me, I guess I didn't get in the habit, it just became a thing that happened constantly, was I'd meet someone and they go, man, you're not as crazy as I thought you'd be. And I'm like, thank you. I don't know what you thought I'd be doing right now. If you thought I'd be in space buns dropping acid or something, but people say that to me all the time, that I'm not as crazy as they thought I would be, and that's just a weird thing to say to someone.
Yeah, but the public image, like what they sold of you, here you are, Hannah Montana, and then all of a sudden you're this very sexual singer, and you're doing all this crazy stuff, and you're on television shaking your ass, and everybody's seeing that, and they're like, oh, Miley Cyrus is out of control now, she's what? Yeah. So then that becomes the narrative,
It's funny when people make the narrative when you become in control, that now you're out of it.
Yeah.
That was always really interesting.
Well, it's also youth, right? Like think about the marriage thing, right? You say Vanity Fair, they write the article, you're deeply in love. By the time it comes out, you're already divorced.
Right.
That's so Hollywood.
Yeah.
I mean, to them, it's like, oh, we've seen this fucking story before.
Yeah.
We know where this is going. Also, you're a child star.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, we've seen this story before. And so you get stuck in that narrative, too, right? Because
Absolutely.
they want you to fall down the exact same path. They don't want you to reinvent yourself.
Path, yes.
Well, then they'll spell it out for you. This is what she's doing.
Now,
she's on drugs and she's pregnant.
I've had to, now I don't read those types of things, but I've had to unlearn that they're not true, because sometimes I write things down when I want something to get put into my head. Even if I'm going to have a hard conversation with somebody, usually I kind of write a little mini script for myself, so I kind of know where I don't like going into something with no direction. Where do I want this to go? What are my goals? What do I want? That's what any of your athletes would do. It's like, I know that I have that as an artist. I want to have a long career. I have to do the things to be able to have that longevity. And so I would write down, kind of an idea of where I'd want conversations to go, even with the people in my life, and what do I want out of them. And I had to stop going, hey, just because they wrote that down, it's true. Because something about writing it down gives a little power. I don't like to write down things that I don't mean. That's why I don't write songs that I hate. Because once you write it down, they are like alive.
So
You
what
know?
you're saying is that like reading things that other people wrote about you made you think that those things were real. So
Yeah.
it fucked with your own personal narrative. like,
Yes. Sometimes I'd be
definition of
trying
yourself.
to prove something that I didn't need to prove.
Mhm.
Like all of a sudden, I'd be trying to prove that I'm not crazy when I knew I wasn't crazy.
Right.
And yeah, I just think also, I mean, when we're talking about realistic children's books, I think the stigma that kind of surrounds, you know, youth growing up, rebelling, and then craziness, and then what's the line between that and mental illness? And, you know, I do have some kind of genetic family history of alcohol. I mean, that totally gets erased when you're a celebrity. It's like Hollywood did this to you. It's like, no, dude, my great grandma was an alcoholic. You know, my granddad was an alcoholic. My grandma's an alcoholic. You know, so I obviously had, it wasn't Hollywood, you know, it's genetic.
I think for you, I mean, I don't think there's any wrong with writing a book and writing a realistic children's book, but I think you could do a lot of good by just making little YouTube videos. Just you make little YouTube videos just talking and explaining, hey, this is what I did, and this is where I fucked up, and this is why you shouldn't do it this way. These are the drugs you got to be really careful about. These are drugs that are really dangerous. And look, if you want to have like one drink, like, just have one fucking drink.
If you can.
If you can, yeah. But if you want to smoke weed, take a hit.
Yeah.
Like, don't get crazy.
Yeah.
Like, figure this out. Like, you can have a good experience on marijuana, or you can fuck up your life and have a schizophrenic breakdown.
And that's
get
one thing
super
that I felt
paranoid.
like, you know, when I was smoking weed, like my mom, all the weed that I don't smoke, she takes care of, both my parents. So I have nothing against weed. My whole family's a bunch of stoners. I just felt like when you're talking about kind of some of the episodes that they can kind of bring on, you know, I maybe have a little, some of those kind of tendencies already.
And that's something that people who love marijuana don't like to talk about.
No.
I'm pretty adamant about discussing that.
Yeah, I
know
agree.
people that have lost their fucking mind,
Me too.
particularly on edibles.
Yeah.
I know some people that literally became schizophrenic.
And I really like looking at facts like that. And I don't know, you know, I do think that I like information. I love to process new information. I love to receive new information. I love to go.
How do you get your information? Are you a person who reads? Do you watch documentaries?
I read, and I was going on a trip when I was maybe 17 years old, and I was walking through the airport, and I saw a book that said "Change Your Brain, Change Your Life" by Dr. Daniel Amen, who's now been my therapist for 10 years.
Ah.
And I couldn't get on this plane. I was